What's up, everyone? Welcome back to What Did They Know podcast. Today, the guys will recap all the action from Week 7 and discuss which teams are contenders and which teams are pretenders. But hey, what do they know?
What do they know? Well, we are about to find out. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Week 7 on the What Do They Know podcast. My name is Nick Hoskins. My buddy Jeff Garcia is here with me as always. What's going on, man? How are you? Let's talk about your week for a minute. Specifically the beginning of the week.
Monday, Philadelphia.
So it's a sports podcast. It's not a baseball podcast,
Right.
But I don't care. We're going to talk about it. It's our show. So,
Right.
For those who don't know, Jeff decided to take a road trip up to Philadelphia for Game 1 of the National League Championship Series against, it was the Phillies and the Diamondbacks.
Right.
Drove up by yourself, bought a ticket last minute, just kind of went and did it.
Yeah.
So tell us about it. How was it?
No, the whole experience was fun. I mean, being a baseball fan, one of the few things you hear about is the Phillies' home advantage and all the fans.
Philadelphia in general, right? Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, and whether they're as violent or as ruckus as they say they are. And
What's the verdict?
No, they were actually very chill people, at least to me. I mean, obviously, when you go to an opponent's home turf, you should expect to be.
Did you wear your Diamondbacks gear?
Yeah.
Good
Corbin Carroll
Good
jersey.
Good for you.
This hat,
Attaboy.
as seen on TV. I was shown on TV with
if you zoom
Perdomos.
way in.
If you zoom way in, the one guy with his hands up,
Yeah.
that's me during Perdomo's home run. So, I mean, yeah, I had my whole D-backs outfit there. I stood up for the whole game. Yeah, apparently Phillies fans, that's what I heard Phillies fans do, is they stand up for the whole game.
That's how it is when I went to the Bills game last year against the Jets.
Was it?
We stood the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So they sit between innings, but like during actual gameplay, they stand right back up, and everybody's waving their towels, whether that's in my face or or wherever. But obviously, whenever you go to an opponent's home field, you should expect to be heckled.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's just being mentally prepared for that, where you're not going to get offended by every single little thing and every chirp that's blown your way. You'll have a fun time.
Yep.
Like I did. So from little kids to grown adults, I heard it all over there. So overall, the experience was very fun.
That's awesome. I'm glad you went, even though they lost.
Right.
I'm sure that was a ton of fun. So
Right.
cool. Do you have a random thought for us this week?
It was actually tying in with the whole thing.
Really? Look at that.
It was,
Unplanned. People.
Unplanned. That's right. It was fan etiquette at live events. Just
Okay.
What you can and should do, and what you shouldn't do.
Okay.
Obviously, with how Philadelphia treated me, I felt like there was a lot of things that they did that I wish Arizona did, like standing up for the whole game, especially during a postseason game. I think that's very important for the atmosphere. Obviously, you see on TV, Chase Field, Arizona fans in general aren't really necessarily that heavy on the fanatic side of the whole sport thing. But I mean, Arizona Diamondbacks have only been around since like '98, so it's understandable for now. But yeah, what you can't say, I guess, and I personally don't care what you say to me. But where I draw the line is basically physical.
Oh, no doubt. Don't touch me.
Yeah, like I got my personal space.
Yeah.
Like with the whole towel waving thing in my face, I let it go a little bit. But there was like a little short dude right next to me, and he waved it like in my face quite a few times, and like I just stared him down after it like hit me like for like the 10th time. I was like, dude, you got all this arm space over here. Aim it that way, and he kind of got the message after that. So as long as you don't physically like berate me, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember very vividly my dad and I went to a Angels and Yankee game, like a random game on like in August, not the playoffs, nothing,
Right.
in Anaheim. And those fans, surprisingly, were brutal.
Anaheim?
Brutal.
Mm.
Like probably, I mean, it was shockingly bad.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think of Anaheim as like a big baseball town.
Right.
And they were. It doesn't help that the Yankees got smoked that game, but I'll never forget, we were walking up the stairs, my dad and I, to leave. It was like probably the 8th inning. We had to drive all the way back to Mesa after, so we left early. It was, again, I think the 8th inning, and like one guy like stuck his hand in my dad's face and waved at him like almost touched his nose with his fingertip, and my dad stopped dead in his tracks and just stared at the dude and said, "Do not touch me again."
Right.
And we just kept on walking. And so I agree with you. I think there's a line there, like you don't touch.
Right. We all have our personal space type of thing.
And it's crazy how many fights we're seeing nowadays on social media at sporting events.
That's exactly why I brought the whole.
It's baffling to me. Like I consider myself to be a diehard fan,
right?
But I am not getting into fist fights.
No, absolutely not. I was telling one of the fans next to me, I was like, "Man, listen, man, I paid good money for these tickets, especially for a postseason ticket. I'm not going
to watch the whole game.
I don't care if the D-backs get blown out or anything. I'm here for the full 9 innings, the whole thing. But yeah, I'm not getting kicked out of this game. There's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I drove down there 6 and a half hours due to traffic and whatnot, so I was not going home early for that game. But yeah, it's just one of those. Also, another thing, I guess, with you being Yankees fans, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Like just the organization.
Probably.
Like obviously, being a D-backs fan, being from the West, Phillies being from the East, we don't interact with each other during the year, so there's no sort of like rivalry or anything like that. So I guess maybe if I was like a Braves fan or something, I'd probably get heckled 100 times worse than what I did. So to me, I
think that's a great point.
Yeah, for me, it's still one of those things where just expect to be hassled verbally, but physically, if you're a fan and you see an opponent,
it's off limits.
Yeah, just don't.
Yeah.
And if you're going to get mad at a game to the point you're physical, just stay home.
Right.
Just stay home.
Right.
Yep. That was my random thought.
Awesome. I love it. All right. So we will kick it off with our top stories. There was a lot that happened in week 7. I feel like we could have a very long show if we really wanted to tonight, just because there was a lot of big games, a lot of, again, a couple upsets,
right?
Some more parity in the NFL as we go on and on. So kick us off for what you have.
So for me, this extends even beyond this week. So my number one story is the officiating and the calls that are deciding games at the very end of the game. Obviously today you had what game was it? The Colts and the
Browns
that
game
was
just an atrocity.
Yep, you had 2 final I guess an illegal contact and then defensive pass interference at the end of that to give the Browns the ball at the 1. Last week you had the Bills, I guess on Monday night, getting away with a hold or whatever.
It was a clear hold on Darren Waller, the last play of the game. Should have been pass interference. They should have gotten a second untimed down at the 1.
Yeah, and then even
clear, like no way you could sit there and argue that it's not pass interference, or holding it at minimum.
Yeah, and then it extends back to sorry to bring this up, but the Jets and the Chiefs back when when the Chiefs were driving and all of a sudden there was something happening, and then of course when the interception happened from the Jets, they threw the flag after.
They threw the flag after the pick.
Right. So it
changed the game.
Yep, it's been an ongoing thing. Obviously, this isn't new for this NFL season, but I feel like it's a lot more apparent, especially because there's a lot more parity, as you said, in the NFL. So a lot of these games are coming down to the wire. So every call is big, and it's deciding games. I mean, obviously, it's a double-edged sword where yes, there's more closer games and there's more parity in the league, but at the same time, it's leaving a big black eye on the NFL with all these officiating calls deciding the end of the games. For me personally, I've always held the NFL as the hardest sport to kind of judge because it's just so fast. But that's also why I have the NFL referees kind of at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to officiating, along with NBA. That's fast sport. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I get it. It's hard to sit and to make calls here and there, and if you're going to make a call here at a certain point of the game, you might as well call it the end of the game. But at the same time, you want to let the teams play.
I feel like part of the problem is it's so subjective. Like when you're an NFL referee,
there's
was that holding? Was that pass interference? Like versus, like, because I was having a conversation with my dad while he was here this week. Like when you compare Major League Baseball umpires to NFL referees, it's no contest.
Right.
The baseball umpires, hands down, are a million times better.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think it could be because was he out or was he safe?
Yes
or no? You know what I mean? Like it's
so simplistic.
Correct.
When it comes to baseball, I think the biggest thing that I guess umpires have to deal with is balls and strikes.
Yeah.
That's literally it. And they're even talking about getting rid of the whole home plate umpire thing with calling balls and strikes.
Yep.
So going robotic with that. But
there's the
push.
brotherly shove
Yeah.
is what they're calling it. Here's the first one of the night
game.
in Sunday Night Football. Yeah, and another thing my dad brought up, which is a really good point. MLB umpires, that's their full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
NFL umpires, or excuse me, NFL referees, this is like a part-time gig for them. I think you're going to continue to get this sort of content or this sort of results from your refs until you put them on the payroll, you up their salaries, and you start fining them.
Right.
Like players mouth off, they do something wrong, they get fined.
Yeah.
A referee makes a mistake, and maybe they get sent like a private memo during the week saying, hey,
unheard of,
you
from
messed
us.
up.
Yep. Yeah. We never hear anything about it.
It has to be like, there has to be some sort of level playing field. Like referees have to be held to a higher standard,
right?
Because they're making mistakes left and right. I mean, a running joke, or not really a joke, in the world of Jets fans on social media is that the Jets have not gotten a roughing the passer call on one of their quarterbacks since 2021. And they handed out fines for all the games last week. And I think his name is Josh Sweat. He's a defensive end for the Eagles.
Right.
He got fined $16,000 for a low hit on Zach Wilson that was not called. It should have been a roughing the passer.
Right.
And so there's just, I mean, not to make it all about the Jets, but like that's just a prime example of like calls that just don't get made or are getting made in the wrong moment.
Right. Obviously, you have your premier players at every position, and I guess I'm not sure if officials make a conscious effort to protect those players, or if they're told to make a conscious effort to protect those players. So obviously, that's the thing that we'll probably never get an answer to. But at the same time, NFL referees are, and I mean, this goes all the way back to the NFC Championship game with the Saints and the Rams, back with that whole pass interference.
Oh my
basically
gosh.
Tackled the guy.
Yeah.
Before. So it's just one of those things where obviously you want to have the referees, I guess, be protected, but to the point where they're deciding games at their own whim, it's gone to the point where it's being disgustingly, I guess, subjective rather than objective.
Yeah,
especially for a $1 billion industry.
For those who may not have seen the end of the Browns and the Colts game, Browns were down, I think 4 or 5 with under 30 seconds to go. They're inside the 10-yard line. Their quarterback, PJ Walker, gets the ball knocked out of his hands, fumbles, recovered by the Colts. Game should be over.
Right.
They call an illegal contact, which if you piece the replays together, it looks like the illegal contact happened after the fumble.
After the fumble.
So it shouldn't have even been a thing. And then like 2 or 3 plays later, the pass interference. Again, Walker literally threw the ball. It almost went in the stands.
Right.
It was like it hit the base of the stanchions like 5 yards out of the end zone. There was no earthly way that, I think it was Amari Cooper, there's no way that he could have caught the ball. Physically impossible. And they called pass interference and gave them the ball at the 1 yard line. And then Kareem Hunt ended up doing, 1 yard rush on 4th and goal, and they won the game.
Right.
That should not happen.
No, and I mean, they have solutions for this, where I guess theories where have an eye in the sky type of thing, on a sky judge that views the replays and calls in while the referees are actually discussing the penalties. Might as well just say, hey, I don't think this is a penalty. Or
they do that with turnovers. They do that with touchdowns.
Right.
Just do it with penalties.
Exactly.
I mean, not everything.
It doesn't have to be a challenge or anything.
Right.
I mean, you obviously have someone. It's a fast game, but if you have the technology to replay it and slow it down, I think you should take advantage of it. I mean, obviously the refs are getting together and conversing about it anyways. So I'm not sure what the holdup is with someone else from a replay booth to chime in saying, I slowed this down, this should not be a penalty or something.
Yeah, I feel like just to sum it up, I feel like this year far and away is the worst it's been in a while.
Yeah, I feel like it grows apparent every year.
Yeah.
Every year that the NFL gets more equal, these calls will be even more defining.
Yep.
So that leads me to number 2, and that will be Deshaun Watson's injury coming off that same game with the Colts and the Browns. At this point, I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm not sure what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he was knocked out in the first quarter, I believe.
Yep.
Today's game.
So he was knocked out for a concussion,
Right.
or
he went
concussion testing,
right?
But he passed.
Right. He passed. So from what I heard is Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, he said that he didn't want to jeopardize Deshaun Watson to get more hits on that shoulder. But he did say that Watson is sure to be the starting quarterback next week against Seattle. But at the same time,
what do you mean? Like, that makes no sense to me. That's the first I've heard that.
Right.
Why are you keeping your quarterback out of the game because of a hit that he might take? Like,
Right.
It's football, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so I'm not sure what's going on, whether they're, I guess, at ends about how severe this injury is that Deshaun Watson has. Obviously, Deshaun Watson has that fully guaranteed contract.
Yep.
So that's always a point of discussion when he sits out due to injury. He has nothing to lose, really.
Yeah.
The Browns do. But, I mean, for the Browns, I guess there's a sense of urgency because this is kind of the year where you have to take advantage of really good defense that you're displaying. Obviously, the Colts kind of put up points on them today, but at the same time, they've been holding it down for a good while. Myles Garrett had a big game today. So you have the pieces there to contend this year. So Deshaun Watson being available is a huge deal for the Browns.
Yeah, and it's something that, and this could be a totally incorrect source, so I'm going to just preface this with that. But I read it was after, I think it was week 3. It was the first game that Deshaun Watson missed. So either week 3, week 4, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that he was cleared by the doctors to play that game,
right?
And then he said he couldn't go,
right?
Which whatever, like, you do you. That's the first I've ever heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of a guy getting cleared and saying, like, nope,
can't do it,
can't make it work, guys.
Yep, can't go.
I'm gonna sit this one out. I've never heard that.
Right.
Now, whatever. Again, you do you. It's your health. It's your body. But it's a shoulder, right? It's not like we're talking about a head injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a huge question mark. This whole Deshaun Watson situation. We talk about all the time. Russell Wilson's contract and his trade just gets chewed apart.
Mm-hmm.
This is getting to the point where it could be the worst trade and the worst contract ever given.
Right.
If it continues to go like this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fully guaranteed. Obviously, those don't. I think, how many of those are there in the NFL? Just the one? Just Deshaun Watson?
I'm pretty sure. I think it'll be the first and the last.
Probably.
Personally.
Absolutely. This is the reason why the NFL does not want fully guaranteed contracts. Obviously, baseball has them. But the NFL, there's just too much potential for injury, too much potential to exaggerate injuries for the player. And we're seeing an example of Deshaun Watson basically being like, I got mine. I'm not going to put my body at risk and my future at risk for the sake of an organization that paid me my money.
Yep.
So it's upsetting to watch. I hope there's actually some legitimacy to the injury. But obviously with the fully guaranteed contract and him being cleared to play, it just doesn't look good for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
All right, so my first story is the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo.
I don't know what's going on with them. They are so confusing to me.
Right.
You think about, what was it, 4 weeks ago, they had that huge win against Miami.
Mm-hmm.
They looked dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might just come down to the simple fact of, like, they can't keep up with their injuries.
Right.
Because they've lost, they lost Tre'Davious White, they lost Matt Milano, they've lost Ed Oliver didn't play today. There's another guy in the defensive line who I can't think of who is out for the season. So they are down significantly, but it's not even the defense that I really have a problem with right now. It's the offense.
Right.
They just look clunky, I guess, for lack of a better term. They should, let's be real, they should have lost to the Giants on Sunday Night Football. If Tyrod Taylor hadn't mismanaged the clock in the first half,
right,
they would have been able to kick a game-winning field goal, and the Bills should have lost.
Right.
So mark that as an L. And then today, they had no business even being in that game against the Pats for the majority of the game. I was so glad that the Pats came back and won, not because I have anything against the Bills, but because I watched that whole game and they just simply did not deserve to win. They didn't play well. The Pats came out and stuck it to them. And at one point I want to say it was 22-10, 22-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Against the Pats,
who
have just been blown out the last several weeks, have looked horrible. And the Bills, who were a 14.5-point favorite, were down 12 points with like under 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I mean, Josh Allen threw a pick his first throw of the game. Stephon Diggs, he had that late touchdown, but prior to that, I think he only had like 5 targets. So their offense is just not clicking.
Right.
And so I'm really curious. They have a Thursday night game against the Bucs. I think that they could very easily lose.
Right.
If they continue to play like this. So again, I feel like they are a team that can flip it on as quickly as they flipped it off the last couple weeks, but they are officially confusing to me because I thought after that win against the Dolphins, they had kind of righted the ship.
Right.
And we're going to kind of just continue to ascend from there. And it's been the polar opposite. They should be on a 3-game losing streak. But instead it's, they've lost 2 out of 3.
Right.
So I'm curious to see what happens with them from here on out.
Yeah, it looks like they were like an emotional high from that Miami game. From there, they went to London after that, and then came back, almost lost to the Giants on Monday night, and then lost today to the Pats. And yeah, when it became 22-10, I was watching that game, and then the commentators said that 22 points were the most that the Pats scored all season.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? Against that defense, the Bills defense, who has come out and showed out basically. I mean, I think they're like the number 2 scoring defense on fantasy football.
Yep.
Obviously that has nothing to do with real life football, but at the same time it's at least some sort of translation there.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, we just kind of discussed their offensive, I guess, limitations and our divisional breakdowns, with just Stephon Diggs kind of being their main thing. But then after that, it kind of is a big drop off. But yeah, they just need somebody else to step up. Gabe Davis had like 1 catch today. He's more of a slot guy, number 3 type of receiver. There's no clear cut number 2. Dawson Knox. He's not that number 1 tight end that Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews is going to be.
Dalton Kincaid had much more of a role today.
Yeah, he kind of broke out today. What his role is in the future, I'm not sure if it's going to be consistent enough to warrant to be a number 2 receiving threat behind Diggs. It's just definitely one of those things where if that Allen to Diggs connection isn't working right off the bat, it's probably going to be
a long day
for that Bills offense. Obviously James Cook does what he can, but that Bills offense hasn't had a sustainable run game for a very long time. I feel like even going back to the days of CJ Spiller, Devin Singletary, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just one of those things where where's the offense going to come from? You don't want it to come from Josh Allen all the time, because then that means he's running the ball and he's putting himself in positions where he's going to probably get hurt eventually.
Or he's playing hero ball.
Yeah,
and he's
playing hero ball.
Mistake.
Yep, fumble the ball, throw interceptions, stuff like that. That's where the mistakes come from. So whether Kincaid steps up into that number 2 role, that's to be seen. But right now, it's Diggs. It's Diggs' offense to control, really.
Yeah, the offense has problems, and I think one thing I was shocked about. So when the Bills took the lead with under 2 minutes left, I was like, okay, like they won,
right.
they pulled it out. It pissed me off.
Yeah, they stole one. Right.
But then they let the Pats go 75 yards in under 2 minutes and score a touchdown and win the game.
Right.
When's the last time you've seen the Bills let a drive like that go in crunch time? I mean, other than last week against the Giants. But it's just 2 weeks in a row where their 2-minute defense, the defense that notoriously steps up, gets that big turnover, makes that big play, has basically relinquished and let the teams drive right down the field. Now, again, I think that they just don't have the tools anymore. I think they are just that injured that their defense is exposed.
Right.
So I think they have some work to do.
Yeah. We talked about it when Tre'Davious White went down. But then Matt Milano went down even further exaggerate those injuries in the defensive side of the ball. And at this point, you're just trying to put glue on the whole thing.
Yep.
And hoping you can somehow escape from these games unscathed. But yeah, it's going to be rough seeing how they move forward.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep.
All right. So we are going to shake things up this week. Oh, no, wait. I have one more story.
Yeah, one more story,
All
right? Yep.
The Baltimore Ravens, their offense finally showed up and did what I thought they were going to be capable of doing at the beginning of the season.
Right.
They put up, 38 points?
38-6.
38-6 on the 5-1 Detroit Lions.
Right.
That surprised the heck out of me today.
Absolutely.
I had the Lions, like that was a very quick, easy pick for me, or so I thought, was the Lions over the Ravens.
Right. That was my upset of the week last week.
I mean, they dominated on both sides of the ball to give up only 6 points to Detroit, and then to score 38 when they've been, in the 15 to 20 range all season. I was really, really surprised. I mean, Lamar finally had that game this week. He finally balled out.
Right.
I think it was the game, again, it was the game I had been waiting for with them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Lions, I mean, I don't know where to put it. I would probably just put it in the dryer. It's a clunker. I agree. It's that game.
It tells me this game, I was going to say the same thing. This game tells me way more about Baltimore than it does about the Lions.
Right, absolutely. Like, Detroit's still very good. Yes, I feel they will rebound from this, no problem. It's just one of those things where I feel like every team has this sort of week every year where you just don't have answers to what's happening.
Yep,
and everything's just inexplicable to you at the time. But as for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson looked really good today. I feel like he had a lot more conviction with his throws rather than panicking and then just carrying the ball and running the ball. Obviously, he would be more lateral with the line of scrimmage, still going through his progression and going through his reads, trying to find the open receiver. He had a lot more conviction with that. But yeah, I think it's taken some adjustment for him to kind of determine whether he should run or pass when he scrambles out of the pocket. But I think he's starting to really have a good feel about when he should do either or. But yeah, this is the type of offense that Monken wanted to implement with the Ravens. It's more pass heavy with Lamar Jackson rather than run. So in order to protect them. But yeah, he spread the ball quite a bit today. Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham.
Beckham looked good for the first time probably all season.
Yep. Bateman, Andrews. I mean, the whole receiving core really got involved inside that pass off. There's no clear-cut number one receiver right now in Baltimore.
You could argue Mark Andrews is the number one.
Right, the number one target. But at the same time, it's a very efficient offense when it's working.
Yep.
So yeah, kudos to them.
Yeah. So I was, obviously I picked them to win the Super Bowl, so that was encouraging for me to see for my prediction. Because I'm feeling pretty good about the Niners as part of that. The other half of that prediction.
Right.
But all right, so now we are going to get to our new segment. We are going to take a break this week from our overreactions, our prisoner of the moment segment.
Right.
And we are going to do some contender or pretenders.
Pretenders.
So I'm going to give you some teams. I'll give you their records. We'll talk about some of the games they've had in the past couple weeks.
Oh, it's that time of year.
And yeah, we won't do this every week, but we'll probably, every 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
I feel like we have enough of a sample size so far to kind of make a determination.
Yeah.
At least halfway, right now.
Right.
So the first team, I'm baffled by this team.
Okay.
I don't know how they are even in this conversation.
Okay.
And that's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Steelers.
They are 4-2. They beat the Rams today in LA, 24-17. It wasn't anything flashy. They did get Deontay Johnson back today, which I think helped overall their offense, and it helped Kenny Pickett.
Right.
But they are this team that, like, you never hear anything about. They just win. They win ugly.
I know.
And they're, don't look now. They're a game behind the Ravens.
Yeah, they're 4-2.
Yeah, they're 4-2.
It's inexplicable to me because, like, I had the Steelers finishing last in that division, but that's a tough division overall. And obviously when you play each other, things happen. But when you play outside the division, I think that's kind of where you see the toughness of that AFC North kind of really take a stranglehold on their opponents. And we saw that today with the Rams. Mike Tomlin, man, you can never say enough about Mike Tomlin.
He's the man.
He's obviously everybody can count him out due to lack of talent, lack of whatever. Obviously you got Kenny Pickett there in quarterback play, not the most experienced, but he had at least a year of play last year. But Mike Tomlin still has those guys churning out W's over there. But for me, I'd probably consider them a pretender for now. I think that team's just way too defense driven. Obviously, defense wins championships, but offense wins you games. A type of ideology there, and I just don't think they have the offense to kind of overcome the offensives they're going to be playing in the playoffs, like Kansas City and any of the Ravens, for instance. Come a playoff environment, I just don't think they have the defense or the offense to keep up with the points those teams would score against them.
Yeah, I agree, but I feel like we're stupid for saying that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we could do a soundbite of ourselves saying, hey, remember when you said that they were pretenders and now they're in the playoffs? Like, I just feel like that's bound to happen.
Right.
Just based off the way that they're winning so far. But
yeah, maybe they'll go to the playoffs and they'll win exactly how they're winning now. And that's being defensively capable of holding their opponents and causing turnovers and maybe even scoring a touchdown defensively.
Yep.
But at the same time, I just can't see them going that deep in the playoffs without a potent offense. Oh, like you said, Deontay Johnson may be coming back. We'll give him a little bit more creativity and a little bit more openness on that playbook. But as for now, I think some other teams in that AFC have a little bit of a leg over them.
Yep.
Offensively.
Yep, I agree. So switching gears to the NFC real quick, we're going to do the Atlanta Falcons. 4-3. I feel like, again, they're very similar. I feel like nobody wants the NFC South.
No.
Nobody wants to take hold of it.
Right.
Today, I thought the Tampa Bay was going to come out and kind of show out and kind of take that stranglehold on the division.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't happen.
Nope.
Atlanta walk-off field goal. You know that 3 out of their 4 wins have been game-winning field goals?
Young Hoku?
Yep.
Young Hoku!
Yep. Today, 51-yard field goal. So they're 4-3. They have a half-game lead in the NFC South. And, I mean, the Saints and the Bucks are still right there.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Carolina. You're gone.
Yep.
He gone.
He gone.
But what do you think on the Falcons?
Well, before I love it to them, I'll just come out and say pretender. Contender for the NFC South title.
Okay.
All
right.
But pretender for the actual, and coming out of the NFC, going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl itself. That's where I have it. Obviously, the other NFC South teams are kind of like an identity crisis. I feel like offensively and defensively,
big time identity crisis.
Yep. I feel like
specifically with the Saints.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like they can never have both sides of the ball show out at the same time, except I guess in New England. But even offensively, they weren't potent or extraordinary or any superlative that you can say for an offense. It's just one of those things where your defensive really chokehold in that Patriots offense. And I mean, the Patriots offense were just in a bad place during that time. But right now, the Bucks and the Saints, it's going to be a 3-way race throughout the whole season. It's just whoever can make the least amount of mistakes, I feel like, is going to be the one to make it out of that with the title there. But yeah, pretender for now.
Yeah, I need to see a dominant win for them. I'm not even willing to say that they're a contender for the NFC South yet, personally. I know they have a half-game lead. Yeah. I still think it's going to come down to the Bucks or the Saints. Yeah. I have way more faith in Derek Carr figuring it out than I do in Desmond Ridder, personally. Yeah. And I would even say that, you know me, my Baker's my boy. I'd even say the same for him over Desmond Ridder. I'm not buying him yet. Right. So I'm gonna say pretender for them as well.
Yeah, I feel like the defense is more consistent with Atlanta than the other two teams, and I feel like their offense. Yeah, this is the reason I feel like they're contenders for the South title, is because their offense, even though it's not good, it's not a well-oiled machine. I feel like they kind of know how to use.
They have their identity.
Yeah, they know what to do, type of thing. I know they. Obviously, you have the whole Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. Are you using them to their full extent? I don't think the answer is yes on that. But at the same time, I feel like they have a goal that they want to achieve, and they kind of have the weapons to do it. Like you have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith at the tight ends position. I feel like they do enough, and that's kind of what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's just enough so that their defense can hold down the fort, and they score enough points to edge out the win. Obviously, that's not a formula that's going to carry you too far, but at the same time, it might be just enough for the NFC South title.
Okay.
Yep.
So a team that we've already spoken about, and I honestly can't even believe that they're in this conversation for the opposite reason of the Steelers, and that's the Buffalo Bills. They're 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have the Dolphins ahead of them. They have as far as the AFC East specifically, they have the Dolphins ahead of them. They have a half game lead on the Jets now, who are on a bye. They're 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Jets, as of right now, have the tiebreaker over them with that head-to-head victory.
Right.
I feel like, again, we already talked about them. I'm flabbergasted with them.
Right.
I don't know what to think right now. I still am going to say contender, me personally.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I gotta go contender because of my Super Bowl pick. I have no choice in this.
Okay.
I have no choice in this argument.
That's fair. Forgot about that.
Yeah, I need them to show up, kind of thing. I need them to adjust.
Just do it.
Just do it. Come on, guys. What are you doing? But yeah, I mean, they put themselves. I mean, whether it's fortune or misfortune, whatever you want to call it, the injuries just annihilated their chances in a big way. But I mean, the whole Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs connection has been their offense for a while. So why is it struggling now? Type of thing. That's like my whole thing. Like I feel like they can still run that offense as long as someone like a Dalton Kincaid can come out and at least keep the defense honest somewhere else rather than Diggs. It's going to be one of those things where defensively, can you find the right personnel and the right schemes to, I guess, hide your weaknesses now? But for now, I feel like they have the potential for offensive explosions. They
have the potential, but it's not there.
Well,
right? That's what we talked about the first couple of weeks.
Right.
Is like they're much less on the big explosive plays that they've had the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
But it's taking them way longer to get down the field. They're actually having to have sustained drives to get down to in the red zone, whereas years past you would have the 40 or 50 yard bomb with a quick score time after time, and they just don't have that this year.
It's like it's going to be an adjustment for them, whether they can adjust to make the proper adjustments to realize, all right, they're not going to give us the 50-yard bomb down the field. We got to take it first down at a time. Well, whether they can do that, this is where that second weapon is going to have to come in, because James Cook, obviously he does what he can, but that running game has its issues in itself. They just need something where it keeps the defensive honest to come up front and then let those 50-yard pass plays come into fruition later down the game. Yep.
All right. The last no, we have two more. Cincinnati. They're 3-3. They've won 2 in a row now against the Cardinals and against the Seahawks. Joe Burrow is starting to look more, back to life. Mm-hmm. They still only I think they put up 17 points against the Seahawks last week.
17-13 or something. Yep.
I feel like they're a team where you say contender just because it's Joe Burrow,
right? And who they are.
But I don't know that I'm buying that right now.
Right.
I think they might have too much competition in their division. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say pretender.
You're going to say pretender,
which shocks me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they're like 2 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah.
So
AFC Championship last year.
Yep, AFC Championship. Obviously, they have the pedigree there. They have the experience. Winning 2 in a row. Obviously, they have a little bit of steam going in the right direction. I'll go contender for now, just because you don't want to count out a team that's already been there,
right?
And a team that knows how to win during that time of year. But yeah, obviously we've gone into their issues quite a bit during our show, and when they were struggling mightily to their 1-3 start. It's going to be one of those things where, ooh, is that a flake? Oh, he didn't throw it. He got sacked. Yep. But yeah, it's going to be one of those things where whether the Bengals can overcome whatever issues is dwelling, whether that's Joe Burrow's calf, whether that's just Joe Burrow just going after Jamar Chase the entire time rather than spreading it out to T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. defensively, I feel like they've kind of stuck defensively pretty well. It's definitely one of those things where it's offensively like a lot of these other teams that you have question marks about, which is weird. I mean, I feel like this used to be like an offensive driven league where can your defense hold up and get you to the promised land, and now it's defenses are kind of balling out, and can your offense do enough to score you enough points type of thing.
Yep.
But I'll go contender for now, just because they're the type of team who has experience to know how to win.
Okay. And then this last one is just for you.
Oh no,
the Saints.
I didn't. I felt like I knew this.
They're 3-4. Okay. We both talked at length before the season when we were doing our breakdowns of each division, how highly we thought of the Saints and how they were going to just roll in the NFC South.
Right.
And it's been anything but. I told you before the show that, because I watched the entire Thursday night game against the Jags. I have never seen Derek Carr that consistently animated after almost every unsuccessful drive. He was yelling at somebody, whether it was Dennis Allen wanting to go for it on fourth down, whether it was the offensive coordinator, whether it was Michael Thomas or Chris Olave one time didn't run the full route and he just lit into him. Kamara, he went up on an option route instead of out. And it was it ended up being like a terrible throw, but it was just because it was miscommunication. Derek Carr was furious then. He's typically a mild-mannered guy on the field.
Right.
Love him off the field. He's a great guy. But he is you can just tell he is, I think, growing very impatient. And I don't remember ever seeing him like this. So I guess, that's just my view on it. But what are your thoughts?
Setting the table.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for discussing all of our problems.
You're welcome.
But yeah, contender, pretender, more like an ender. They're going to end my life. Jeez, these guys just offensively, they're frustrating to watch. It's just one of those things where their offensive coordinator, I guess, got yelled at by Derek Carr last week. Not this past Thursday, but the week prior. I feel like we discussed it coming into the season. Derek Carr had something to prove.
Yep.
When he came out of Oakland, I feel like he's starting to feel that kind of narrative kind of slip away from him. Well, now he's, instead of being the solution, he's being part of the problem. And kind of like, I guess, solidifying what Oakland fans saw or whatever they want to say during his time in Oakland / Vegas. But yeah, there's just all sorts of problems. Chris Olave not finishing routes. Michael Thomas, I guess, doesn't have as secure hands as he used to. I mean, back when he had Drew Brees, anything around him he would catch 100% of the time. There's just like, oh, that's Michael Thomas. Oh, he's got that 100% of the time. No worries whatsoever. Now it's just one of those things where I'm not sure whether it's miscommunication or it's just people kind of like giving up on what they're doing offensively because they're just not believing in what they're putting out there.
Everybody's just getting frustrated.
Right. It's just a culmination of everybody being frustrated and everybody not being sold on their role with the team. Obviously, Chris Olave wants the ball a lot more, and like we said, like you said, a lot. Wide receivers are divas; they want the ball, whatever. But yeah, Chris Olave is kind of showing that a lot more. Apparently than Kamara or Michael Thomas, but it's gotten to the point where if Derek Carr's getting frustrated, that's when you got problems, because like you said, he's always been mild mannered. He kind of takes those sort of issues behind closed doors, and it's just one of those things where I'm not sure where it's going to go. Whether there's going to be a coaching firing sometime during the season or after the season. Obviously, after the season, it's going to be probably too late. But I have no idea where the team's going to go. For now, I'll go pretender for now, as much as it hurts me.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Challenging
my
demons.
That was fun. So we'll do that again in a few weeks. We'll pick obviously some different teams based on what's going on, and
that was fun.
We'll do that again. That was fun. I enjoyed that, especially the Saints.
Yeah, make me want to cry.
All right, so now we are going to do our power rankings, and I will let you go first.
Power rankings.
I'm really, really wanting to rethink my power rankings as of the first half of the Sunday night game, but I'll wait until.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's still early. It's still not even halftime.
Yeah, but the Eagles, so anybody not watching this game, the Eagles are giving it to the Dolphins 17-3.
Mhm.
They're dominating every statistical category
Oh yeah,
by a lot.
right.
And so there's a minute and a half left in the second quarter, and the Eagles are up big right now. So we'll see how this game ends.
Right. I mean, coming into this game, I feel like both of us were in agreement that Philadelphia hadn't showed us like that statement game really.
Correct. They
Where
probably listened.
They
listened to the What Do They Know podcast, and they said we need to show those guys our statement win.
That's exactly right. So, Eagles fans,
you're welcome.
Yeah, you can thank us later. But number one, I still got the Dolphins there. Obviously, their offensive output is on historic levels. So as of right now, and obviously it's not 3 points on the board, but the game's still not at halftime. They're driving. We'll see what they put up. But honestly, I'm not completely sold on it because the Eagles, for me, still are a top 5 team. So, but Dolphins number one. I got the Chiefs jumping up to number 2.
Okay,
they're winners of 6 in a row. And as long as they have Taylor Swift on the sideline, I think they're in good hands. So number 3, I got the 49ers.
Okay.
They play tomorrow, but yeah, I like what they're doing over there. So even if they're coming off a loss, we'll see. I think Deebo Samuel's out for a little while.
Yeah. Next 2 weeks before the bye.
2 weeks. And then McCaffrey, I think he's expected to play. So that's good news for that team, especially McCaffrey is basically the engine of that team, that offense. So 49ers are 3. Number 4, I got the Eagles. So obviously this is a battle between 2 top 4 teams in my power rankings. But yeah, anything can happen on that one. And the number 5, I got the Ravens coming up and jumping over the Lions. I dropped the Lions out of my top 5. Obviously, obviously it's a clunker. Like I said, it's a clunker. It's something you wash away.
They'll be back.
Yeah, they'll be back. But obviously, I can't. It's hard to keep you on there when you let up 38 and you scored 6.
Yeah.
So I got the Ravens at 5.
Okay. Very similar. Well, actually not that similar. I have the Dolphins at 1, like you. I have the 49ers up at 2 still.
Okay.
I still think that stylistically they would beat the Chiefs, although the Chiefs finally had, we talk about the Eagles needing a statement win. The Chiefs kind of had that today.
Mm-hmm.
I picked the Chargers to win, and that obviously didn't happen. The Chiefs looked really, really good today. So
right.
I have the Chiefs at 3. The Jags moved up to number 4 for me.
The Jags.
I had them number 5 last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a tale of 2 games for them on Thursday. They came out rolling in the first half, and then laid an egg in the second half until like that last drive when they really needed it.
Right.
But they showed. Oh, there's a touchdown.
Yep,
Tyreek
Hill.
17-10, folks.
There you go.
They showed that they can turn on their offense. They showed a glimpse of what it could look like against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the Ravens at 5. The Ravens moved up for me. So the Lions fell out, and
you have the Eagles in there?
I didn't have the Eagles in there last week because they lost to the Jets.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's right.
They'll be back. They'll probably be back in if they win this game.
Right.
Because again, I needed to see more from them.
Right.
So yeah, Dolphins, Niners, Chiefs, Jags, Ravens for me.
Okay.
But I think the Lions will be back. I think the Eagles will be back. It wouldn't even shock me if the Bills are back in there at some point.
Right.
But they got a long way to go.
Right.
All right. So we are going to finish. Oh, we got one more. Studs. We're going to do our studs and duds from fantasy football perspective. So I got the studs this week. So there were actually a lot of really good performances from quarterbacks. We had Lamar Jackson.
Tell it's my team.
Well, yeah, except for you. Well, no, I have a stud on your team.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just wait for it.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson, 33.88 points. He had 3 passing touchdowns. Again, we talked about it. Finally showed a glimpse of what they're capable of. Mahomes had a great game. He had 33.8 points as well. He had 4 touchdowns. Him and Kelsey just blew up today. Showed how that they're a Hall of Fame combination.
Oh, yeah.
Running backs, Deontay Foreman from Chicago. He had 3 total touchdowns. I think it was 2 rushing and 1 receiving.
Yep.
33 points. Alvin Kamara from your team, 12 catches for 91 yards. He had 29 fantasy points. So he had a great game on Thursday.
Check downs galore.
Yep, it sure was. Josh Downs for receivers from the Colts, 125 yards and a touchdown. He had 23 points.
Look at that, making an appearance.
Yeah, a rare Colts appearance on our list. Puka, again, 23.4 points, 154 yards, 8 catches.
Yeah, anybody who had any worries about Cooper Kupp kind of taking over that offense, it's going to be one of those mix and match.
Yeah.
Who's it today type of thing for the Rams.
Tight ends, Travis Kelce. Again, we talked about him. He blew up today. He had 12 catches, 179 yards, and a touchdown. He and Mahomes just looked unstoppable today.
Mm-hmm.
And then Darren Waller, first time I think on the stud list.
Darren Waller,
yep,
living up to the billing.
Yep.
We've been hyping him up all offseason.
7 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Side note, real quick, I did this as one of my overreactions or not overreactions 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think it's even more of a conversation now. What should happen when Daniel Jones is healthy? Because again, they only scored 14 points today. They only scored 12 points last week. They didn't light the world on fire,
right?
But they're noticeably different. I think one of the biggest differences is that he gets Darren Waller involved. The last 2 or 3 weeks, you cannot deny the numbers with. Why am I blanking on his name?
Tyrod Taylor.
Thank you, Tyrod Taylor versus Daniel Jones. The numbers specifically for Darren Waller are like night and day. And so I think that is one of the biggest things that you need to look at when contemplating whether or not to play Jones when he gets back.
Right. Do you get your playmakers the ball?
Correct.
Daniel
and
Jones
he does
he
not.
Does
not. Tyrod is just so much quicker and so much more mobile, which you need with that offensive line.
And I feel like he's more like, I guess, convicted about what he wants to do with the ball too.
Agreed.
Like with Darren Waller.
Agreed.
And Saquon Barkley, he got a receiving touchdown today.
Yep.
But yeah, I like Tyrod Taylor.
Yep.
So, yep.
And then defenses, both teams you never ever hear on this list. The Bears.
The who?
Exactly. The Bears defense.
The Bears.
18 points. They had 3 picks and a touchdown, defensive touchdown. And then the Giants. 15 points. They had a pick. They had a blocked field goal, and they had 6 sacks. So 2 teams that I would never imagine will be on our stud list. They might not ever for the rest of the season, but hey, they made it. They made it for at least 1 week.
If you started the Bears or the Giants, buy yourself a lottery ticket.
Yeah. We need to talk.
Yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah.
what connection?
If you're that desperate, you're starting those 2 teams.
Yeah, true.
Either that or you're the next Matt Berry.
There you go. All right, so I got duds this week. So I got duds starting off with quarterbacks. I got Goff, who threw for 53 times.
He was a big dud.
Yeah, he threw 53 times and had 0 touchdowns and 1 interception. He kind of salvaged his day with the 284 yards, but I mean, from a non-mobile quarterback that doesn't run, it's kind of not enough these days.
Right.
So Goff is a dud this week. Herbert, 17 for 30, 259 yards, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. Obviously, with that Kansas City opponent, you would have felt like he would have thrown a little bit more than 30 times, just trying to keep up with the offense that KC was displaying. But for whatever reason, he went out and scored less points than the Chicago Bears rookie quarterback. So
gosh, that's shocking.
I know. What's his name?
I don't even know.
Yeah, something agent. But yeah, Herbert is a dud this week. Running back Bijan Robinson. Apparently, he came in with an illness, so he only had 1 play. He only had 1 carry for 3 yards.
I was wondering what happened to him.
Yeah, apparently he didn't feel too well, so they held him out for the most of the game, and they gave him one carry in the 4th quarter. So if you started him, blame Arthur Smith because he did not have Bijan. He did not give Bijan injury designation before the game. So Josh Jacobs is kind of entering that territory for kind of complete bust status. I know he had like 2 big weeks, like 4 to 3 weeks ago, but throughout the rest of the season, he's kind of been mediocre.
Yeah. Big time.
Fringe RB2 flex play type of thing, but coming from a position where you drafted him probably pretty high. Obviously he led the league in rushing yards last year. So 11 rushes for 35 yards and 1 reception for 6 yards. Especially with that Oakland offense not really having a focal point, you would kind of hope Josh Jacobs would have taken over as the focal point there, but nope, not happened so far. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
1 reception for 5 yards.
Yeah, Lattimore shut him down.
Yep. It's just one of those things where, Lattimore, you have to see who they're matching up with guess with their cornerback, Marshall Lattimore has a very good history against who he matches up with, especially Mike Evans and whatnot. But if you have any even sort of hint of a shutdown corner, and more so if your wide receiver is kind of struggling going into the game, I'd probably just bench him all together. I know I did in one league. So Calvin Ridley was a bust. Amari Cooper, 2 receptions for 22 yards. Honestly, I expect a full rebound with that, even with PJ Walker coming in. PJ Walker still gave him 8 targets.
Yep.
Or Deshaun Watson and PJ Walker combined gave him 8 targets. I mean, targets are there. It's just about accuracy and getting him the ball more effectively. But if Deshaun Watson plays, you should expect higher numbers. But if PJ Walker plays, I feel like they should have
a toss up.
Yeah, they should at least develop some sort of connection, especially with these 2 weeks that PJ Walker's kind of stepped into that starting role. And then Cooper Kupp, 2 receptions for 29 yards. He had 7 targets. So I wouldn't delve too much into it, but it's definitely going to be an interesting dynamic between him and Puka the rest of the year. Who's going to get the bulk of the targets? But it's going to depend on what the defenses do and who they want to shut down, really. So it's play them at your own mercy type of thing. Tight end, I only got 1 written down, and that's Cole Kmet. He got nothing. Not even a target. Goose egg. Nothing. Okay. Did he even play? I have no idea. But but apparently not on the stat sheet. Okay. So Cole Kmet, and then defensive special teams. I put the Lions here, even though they had a tough matchup against the Ravens. I still put the Lions here because if you put up negative 7 points,
oh my goodness,
you're going to be put on this list. I'm sorry, but yeah. And then the Bills. Obviously they came in with a very good matchup on paper.
Shocking.
But they let up season high points to the Patriots and scored a single point. So that's okay. Those are mine.
I'm going to call an audible here real quick, Jeff, and part of our fantasy football segment. We're gonna talk about our trade that we made.
Oh no.
Okay. So
that's fine.
Every year, Jeff and I are good for at least one trade.
Yeah.
And normally he gets me. Normally he it's a little unfair. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there. But I finally feel like I have we had a trade where I made out on the better end of this. Okay, so I want this.
I know you did.
Yeah. Okay.
No, right. I know the reason I made this trade. All right, here, let's go over the trade first.
Okay.
So I traded you Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
Travis Kelce.
Yep.
And Amari Cooper.
Yep.
And you gave me Jared Goff.
Yep.
And Kenneth Walker III.
Yep.
So the reason I made this trade was because I am desperate for a running back in this league. I've been having absolutely zero output from that position. From either running back 1 or running back 2 position. I can't even remember who I drafted to be my RB1 in that league, to be honest with you. I don't know if I lost him to injury or who it was, but I have to look back on that. But yeah, I've been desperate for RB1 in that league, and Kenneth Walker is a top 10 running back.
Yep.
So I have Sam Laporta at tight end, so I could afford to lose Travis Kelce. Obviously, Travis Kelce decides to put up 35 points or whatever it is on the first week I traded him. So obviously it doesn't look good short-sightedly. I admit.
Yeah, when you texted me, you're like, "Hey, I want to do this." I was reading it to, I think it was my dad. I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something here.
Oh no, I needed QB too.
I feel like it's an obvious take the deal right now sort of thing. And he was like, "Yeah, dude, you need to accept that trade."
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys can let us know what you think. If it was one-sided, if it was fair, if Jeff still somehow managed to get one over on me.
Here's my long-term analysis.
Okay.
Here, let me give it to you right here. And this is just straight hypothetical. Travis Kelce has been more prone to injuries this year than he has in previous year. Obviously, you had the hyperextended knee pre-week 1. And then you had that little ankle sprain scare last week or the week prior. So I feel like he's getting a little lucky with injuries this year. So
you're banking on him being injured.
I'm banking on that, and then Kirk Cousins. He hasn't been the same since Justin Jefferson took off.
That's very true.
So
he is not my long-term plan at quarterback.
Right.
He's more of a stop. I even actually picked up Kyler Murray for when he comes back.
Okay.
Because he's kind of going to be my plan, but we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah. So I needed somebody else besides Kirk Cousins and I like I said, I have
Derek
Sam
Carr.
Laporta. Yeah, Derek Carr. Over there. Even though Derek Carr scored more points than Jared Goff this week. Stop it.
All right. So I just wanted to go over that because I felt like that fit well into our
fit well for who?
fantasy football
Unbelievable.
segment. Humble brag.
Humble brag.
All right. So we're going to finish the show.
We'll talk week 17.
Yeah. We'll finish the show with our picks. Another humble brag. We are officially tied.
Oh, we're tied now.
Yep. So last week I went 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
My lock was the actually, did I? Who did I pick last week? No, Browns over the Colts. Yeah. So
okay.
So I picked the Browns.
You skipped with that one.
Yes. Yep. I got lucky with my lock. Browns over the Colts, and then my upset was the Chargers over the Chiefs, which obviously didn't happen.
Right.
So that puts me at 8-6 for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, you picked. Stand by, people.
Yeah.
You picked the Bills over the Pats as your lock, which didn't happen.
Way to go, Buffalo.
And then the Lions over the Ravens, which definitely didn't happen.
Way to go, Detroit.
So you were 0-2 last week, so that puts you from 8-4 to 8-6. So we are tied up, my friend.
That hurts my heart.
It makes me so happy.
I'm sure it does.
All right, so go ahead with your predictions for next week.
All right, so upset. I got the Vikings of the Packers. I'm not too confident in this anymore after you just said I went 0-2. But that's okay. I feel like neither of these fan bases should be confident either. So we'll line up with it. No confidence going. Right. We're going with it. And then my lock, I got the Dolphins over the Pats. Patriots.
You're a ballsy guy for picking against the Pats 2 weeks in a row.
I'm trying to kick him while he's down, and he kind of kicked me.
Especially after they just beat you.
I know.
Or they beat the team that you picked.
I know. Bill Belichick, if you're watching this and this is the reason you won this week, do it again. Double down, dog. So, Dolphins over the Pats. I obviously the Patriots aren't that good of a football team, so I can't. Them winning 2 in a row against the Bills and the Dolphins, no way. No, stop it. Stop it.
That would be crazy.
Just enough.
All right. I'm on board with that. So for my lock, I have the Ravens over the Cardinals, which scares me because I feel like it's a classic letdown game for the Ravens.
Cardinals. Okay.
But that's my lock nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And then my upset is Bucks over the Bills. Thursday Night Football, short week after a tough loss. Bills are 7.5 point favorites. I've been high on Tampa Bay, even though they lost today. I still think that this is a game where Baker could come in and really expose that defense with Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a realistic upset. You were smiling, so what do you have to say?
I'm just laughing because like how I pick on the Pats. I think you pick on the Bills quite a bit too. Obviously, you had the Bills as your lock over the Giants, but throughout that whole week, you were like, I feel like you were second guessing the entire.
And I was almost pretty much right.
Uh-huh.
But
and then this week with
I
think we have our kind of like our kicking bodies.
If nothing else, that line really shocks me. 7.5 point favorites after they just lost to the Pats over the Bucks.
Opening line probably.
That's surprising, but all right. So those are our picks. That's the show. We shook things up a little bit this week, so let us know if you guys enjoyed or what you thought. Hopefully you enjoyed it with doing contenders versus pretenders instead of our overreactions. So we will see you next week for week 8. The Jets are back off a bye. They have the Giants next week. Mm-hmm. Technically the visiting team, but obviously it's a home game. They share a stadium. So we'll see what happens there. And then who do the Saints have? They have the Colts, I think.
They have Indy, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I believe they're in Indy too.
So winnable game with Gardner Minshew, although he looked pretty good against the tough Browns defense today. So we'll see what happens there. And we will recap it all for you guys next week. Hopefully we're both decked out in our gear.
Yeah, or in tears.
Yeah, that too. Or there'll be a box of tissues like right here.
Yeah, 3 and 5. Yeah. Come on, man.
All right, that's the show. We will see you guys next week. Go Diamondbacks.
Go Diamondbacks. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to What Did They Know podcast. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media outlets to see future episode details. And don't forget to send in any questions or topics that you want to see the guys discuss in their weekly episodes to come.